every client brings their own ideas, their own issues, their own strengths that they want to talk about. So it is very much a personalized for each of our clients, because we now know them. We understand what their goals are for being a guest as well, which is very, very important.
Hey there, welcome back to the My Future Business Show. It's Rick Nuske here once again. I'm your host. I'm so very excited to have you here. And in fact, if it's your first time joining us on the show, I would just like to say welcome. And I know you're in for a big treat, because on today's show, I'm excited to welcome co-founder of interview booking service called Podcast Introduction, Mr. Mark Hayward. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hey, Rick, thanks for having me on the show. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely a pleasure, and likewise. Now, during the call, you and I will be discussing podcast guesting services along with your podcast and YouTube channel called Business Growth Talks. And there is so much to unpack here, Mark. So what we generally do is we look into, I guess, your background and things like that. So where are you calling in from today?
So I'm based in London, West London in the UK. I've lived in the UK for all of my life. I love doing traveling as well, but always found myself coming back to London, and we live just outside London, and it's just it's a great cultural city with a lot of influences culturally, and it's just a fantastic place, and I absolutely love living in London.
Now, I know you're going through a bit of a heat wave, as we were talking about just prior to the call. So, you know, when you have a bit of a heat wave, do you get out and about? Do you have any sports? What do you like to do?
So one of the main thing I do to get out of the house is walking the dog. Or the dogs. I've now got two dogs. So walking them is a hobby of mine. I also coach. My daughter plays rugby union, and we just finished last Sunday with the last training session of the season. So I got pulled in at the start of this season to be a coach. So I'm working with the boys and girls, teaching them about the fundamentals of rugby. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. I'm a season ticket holder of a Premiership rugby team called the Harlequins. So rugby is definitely in my blood.
Isn't it funny how we go from people who play the sports and then the kids come along and then we're doing nothing but coaching the sports? What's it taught you? What's it taught you about yourself, do you think, being in that position?
So it's communication. I did a post about this quite recently on LinkedIn. Communication is so important. And when you're trying to help kids understand things, keeping it concise, keeping it measured, and just be able to get the information, the value that you want to share with the child. Children have a very short attention span. So do adults, but children especially. And being able to communicate something clear, concisely, and to the point, and add the value, I think is a skill that when you're coaching, coaching anyone, but coaching kids is an incredible way of thinking about your communication style, and understanding also which kids need what type of communication as well. So a friend of mine, Michelle, has the bank system, but there's DISC and there's various other places like that where you get to understand what type of way to communicate with people. And so being aware of the different styles and different ways that people receive information and how the best way for them to receive information it's definitely been crystallized for me when I'm now communicating on podcasts, doing my own show, when I'm doing LinkedIn posts, when I'm doing stuff on YouTube. So it's definitely given me a greater focus on how to be clear and concise with communication.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm really looking forward to talking about podcast introduction, but I certainly do enjoy the opening section of these calls. And I'd love to know, when you go out, what's your favorite food?
Favorite food?
Oh, yes, sir.
Good question.
You have many?
One of the sort of go-tos, and it's something that I like, and luckily the kids have joined me on this, is I do like Mexican food, so burritos and tacos and things like that. We've got a really, really nice place on the high road that's very close to us, and I must admit, like when it's a go-to sort of takeaway meal, is probably Mexican for me.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for the feedback. Now, let's open the book of time and go back to growing up as a child. What do you remember that's a fond memory that you can share with the audience about your childhood?
Um, I was very fortunate to be brought up by parents who they gave a lot of affection and a lot of support. And one of the things, the memories I have is when I was younger, when I was very young, my mum always being there. She was a stay-at-home mum for until we went to secondary school. And so she was always available, always ready to support in any way. And then when I got older, the relationship with my father evolved when I was getting into the teenage years and into 20s, and having those sort of one-to-ones with him. And he was a very wise man. He worked in corporate for most of his life. And it was those quiet moments going for a walk with him when we were on holiday, and around Christmas we often went away at Christmas. So those walks with him and those quiet moments, something that I will always have very fond memories of. So yeah, I was very fortunate to have very available and very supportive parents.
It's a blessing. Thank you for sharing. I know that these sorts of memories are very important to a lot of people that are on the show. Now, tell me a little bit about you. You've just touched on your parents being influential people in your life. Now, as you moved forward into your more professional sort of environment, who else was influential in your earlier years?
Earlier years, really, I had a PE teacher, a sports teacher, and I loved rugby and cricket. They were my two main sports that I played. And he was a pretty hard guy, but he was definitely encouraging and supportive, and just really wanted to get the best out of me playing sport, as well as the rest of the kids that were at the school. So as I say, he was very firm, very hard man. He didn't necessarily mince his words. He was very clear and clear about what he wanted and the expectation that he had for us. So I think that was a really good learning curve, to have high standards for yourself
Yeah.
and to be performing at the highest level that is possible for you.
Yeah.
I did have an opportunity. I was playing sort of for south of England, so like we'd play south versus north of England. So at one stage, rugby was potentially something, an option for a career. Unfortunately, I had a knee operation at 17, which really put scuppers to it, and I started to find uh, having fun with friends, drinking, and sort of
Oh,
chasing girls
you too.
as a normal youth. And so the rugby career was a no-go pretty much after that.
Mhm.
But I think that sort of keeping high standards for yourself, and trying to aim for big goals, I think was something that I took from my PE teacher.
Great feedback. Thank you. Now, I remember when I was growing up, my first entrepreneurial experience was washing cars. Can you recall yours?
Um, do you know what? And this is so I genuinely believe that entrepreneurship is something that can be learned. It's not necessarily innately in people. Some people are obviously more naturally attuned to it. But my entrepreneurial spirit, like it came in my sort of my 30s, sort of
Hmm.
mid 30s, because I got the corporate career. I did traveling, and I did some contracts in central government, but I went in, and I went into corporate. My dad was in corporate, so it felt like the natural place. But probably later than most people who are business owners, in that sort of like early 30s, I started on my personal development journey. So it started off with Tony Robbins, as most people do, as a starting point, and that went into a fascination into business, entrepreneurship, marketing, sales. And while I was in my corporate career, I learned how to be, like, now it's got a word, it wasn't a word at the time, but an entrepreneur. So I was trying to be entrepreneurial in my corporate career.
Uh-huh.
So so when I actually left my job formally at 40 years old in 2020, in the pandemic, and I decided to go out on my own, it was much later than most people do, or most people start a job or start a business in their 18, 20, something like that, and get all those lessons learned, and then they can be successful. So I don't have a memory of the lemonade stand or like that baseball. Americans talk about baseball cards, but like panini stickers
Yeah,
we
yeah.
used to have for the football World Cup. I didn't really have that. So I believe that although I wasn't innately entrepreneurial, it was something that I developed the skills and built them part of my life, that when I was ready and able and had the financial runway as well, which was helpful, that was when the entrepreneurial side came in, and I could then leverage everything that I'd learned in the last 10 years. So yeah,
Go from
that's
there.
probably where it all started.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Sometimes it's better to have a bit of a runway financially and experientially. So thank you very much for the feedback. Now, that's a great segue into my next question where did the idea for podcast introduction actually come from? I know that you have a co-founder, George McGarren. Have I said it correctly?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about George and the journey that you've gone on with him.
So one of the things we talk about when we're working with our clients, to be open to collaborations, partnerships, and starting businesses. And one of the reasons, there are many, but one of the reasons why it's so evident to me and to George is he was actually a guest on my show, and we got on. We had a really great rapport, and so we sort of had catch ups every sort of month or two, and we just stayed in contact. I had him on for a second time, and he said to me, look, can I this was probably in a matter of sort of 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. He said, look, can we have another call? I've got an idea and I want to run it past you. So we had the call, and he said to me, look, so my experience was podcasting as well as podcast guesting. He went on 60 shows in 12 months with his team, and he said, look, I think there's a business here. I don't know how to do it, but I think there's an idea here. My team have already done a lot of the sort of the logistical sides of it. I said, look, don't worry. I'd been working with agencies. I'd been approached by agencies to work with them. So I knew the business model, and I knew the pricing, and I knew what our USP could be by being like talking mainly to business owners, but also to non-fiction authors as well, but mainly business owners. So that's where the idea came up. We did research for a number of months, just trying to collect as much data about the industry, about podcast guesting, about the competitors that we were going to go against. And so that's really where the idea came up. And it's always a good story for me, because when I'm talking to our clients, it's like, just always keep your eyes and ears open to opportunities. When you're talking to podcast hosts, they you might be able to help them, you might be able to solve a problem for them, you might be able to work with them. We've had various clients of ours that have done collaborations and partnerships as well. And so yeah, that's where the idea came from. And now we're 4 years, 4.5 years, maybe even 5 years into the story, and we all started from a conversation like this that we're having today, Rick.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, this is a collaboration as well. Whatever we can do on the My Future Business show to help you and George move forward with podcast introduction, that's certainly what we'll do. Now, along that path, Mark, like everyone in business, there's ups and downs. Tell us about some of the ups and downs that you've gone through in getting podcast introductions up and running successfully.
Yeah, I suppose our biggest situation that we had was regarding marketing. So when we started, we tried a few different marketing strategies, cold email outreach, LinkedIn, and various places, and we stumbled on Google Ads. And so we went into Google advertising. It started to do really well, and we just kept on upping our spend, our ad spend on Google advertising. It's not the cheapest, but it has great reach, and there's intention when they're searching, and this is why we liked it. It's like with Facebook ads, it's very much scrolling. You might get interrupted by an advert.
Yep.
it's a different thought process for the ads. And what we found was we ended up investing so much into Google adverts that when it actually stopped working, there was a few reasons why it stopped working, but it stopped being as effective generating leads and sales. So I sort of saw this happening and saw in the drop off of the next set of clients coming through from that channel. And I said to George, look, we need to diversify our marketing. And he's like, yeah, but Google Ads. I'm like, look, I'm looking at the numbers, and Google Ads are being less effective. We're not getting our target audience now, and there's less conversions, less sales. So what we did was we rethought our marketing. So we still do Google Ads, but it was also important for us to start setting up an email newsletter. So we send out once a week something to, we've got about 2,000 people on our email newsletter, and we're sending them, adding value, giving information to them. And that's been great for us as well, generating leads and sales. But also we're now targeting LinkedIn. There's a lot of content that I'm producing, videos and content on LinkedIn as well. Obviously there can be advertising on my podcast as well, for podcast introduction, and also guesting as well, as I'm doing today, is a great way of being able to promote your business and your service. And the last thing that we do as well is networking. So I'm part of a couple of networking groups where I go out and we talk about the business. So I think the over reliance and the sort of narrowness that we just were working and using Google Ads, when it stopped working suddenly, I thought, and we thought, that actually having a diverse marketing channels is a much better way to keep the growth of the company, rather than an over reliance on one channel, because at some point the algorithm might change and then it doesn't work as well. And if you're over reliant just on one channel, that's where you can start getting into problems.
Thank you for the feedback. Now, tell me a little bit about the actual core service that Podcast Introduction provides, and tell me about the benefits that your particular, I guess, target audience would experience. I mean, is it authority? Is it SEO? What is it? Introductions to
Well,
other business
it's
owners?
all of the above. So you get you as we've said about collaborations with podcasters, you've got creating being a thought leader in your industry, also sort of visibility and credibility and creating trust. And we work as business owners, we work with our clients on their other marketing channels. So for example, if they have an email newsletter, make sure that you're promoting episodes that you've been on in your newsletter. That's a great way of doing it. So we work with our clients to make sure that they can use the current existing channels that they have and bring podcast guesting as the center point of that. So yeah, we're trying to gain authority, we're trying to gain credibility, we're trying to gain trust, we're trying to be able to get that message about your product and service to the widest audience that they can. We very much target niche shows for our clients. So if it's an industry that they're in, digital marketing, for example, we'll get them digital marketing shows. So sometimes it's very much technically they want to be on marketing, sales, leadership shows. Equally, the other way we can approach it is, where is your ideal client?
Yeah.
And then we can then tailor the search for shows and the outreach to shows where your ideal client is. So we're working with a SaaS company at the moment, and it's an AI powered tool that's looking to work with like small business owners. So we're working with them and getting them on business shows and small business shows, because that's who they want to talk about and talk to. And so it can fall into a number of different ways, whether it's talking knowledgeably and sharing your experience, your expertise, and your knowledge in an industry, or whether you want to be talking to small business owners, entrepreneurs, early stage businesses, or health and well-being. Are you looking to, is it like we worked with a nutrition bar company as well, and is your audience going to be where health and fitness and wellness is? So there's lots of ways that we can do it, but it's just really making sure that we're working with our clients together to make sure that whether it is an authority piece or whether it's talking to your ideal client, that's how we get the best results for our clients.
Fantastic. Now, given the number of industries that you could potentially work with, have you found any that are better suited to podcast guesting than others?
Tech companies are very good. There are a lot of technology shows. We actually we do and have worked with a number of corporates in the tech sector as well. So they can be very good. Marketing, sales, anything entrepreneurial, anything business related, they can be fantastic areas for us. But we flex because we have a directory, which means we can outreach to any show globally. In theory, we can work with anyone. We recently started working with a psychiatrist who had a particular new method of overcoming PTSD and anxiety and those things, and we'd not worked with anyone in that industry before, but we talked to him, and we understood what he wanted and who he wanted to speak to, and we were able to get on mental health shows, on depression shows, and those sort of things. So it really is agnostic, but in most cases they are business owners that we're working with.
Because looking at the way that you're operating Podcast Introduction, there's obviously an element of automation and systems that go behind this. And with the advent of AI, it's very difficult to separate, the good from the artificial nowadays. How do you use systems? Are you reliant on AI at all? Tell us a little bit about that side of the business.
Yeah. AI, I think, has been a game changer for me across the podcast and across the podcast business. But I'm very aware that it's about 80% right. It definitely needs human intervention to make sure that it's authentic and that you're getting the message. So I use it as brainstorming ideas. We work very much on systems with our people, our talent that we work with. So we have certain processes for outreach. We have certain processes when we're creating the bio as well. Sometimes we'll my team write it. We then put it through AI and tweak it from there and make sure whether we want to make it personable or we want to make it professional, or depending on the type of client it is. So a mixture between systems and processes that I've built on the delivery side to make sure that everyone that's in the team knows what they need to do. So researching the shows, the outreach for the shows, having the process there for the number of outreaches that we do. And as I say, like, AI is an amazing tool. It's not a solution. And that's what I think we need to understand at the moment, that it's not a solution to our problems. It's a tool that can help us create LinkedIn posts, create email newsletters, marketing, but it definitely needs to make sure that you're keeping the authenticity to yourself and to your business as well. So yeah, systems and processes are absolutely necessary for our business, and AI is a helpful tool for us to be able to make sure that we can produce content, that we can produce ideations for people, but it's still very much centered around people doing the roles to make sure that we're doing everything perfectly for our clients.
Great feedback, Mark. Thank you so much. Now, I often think about paid marketing. You've touched on Google Ads. There are so many, banner advertising, all these different types of inbound and outbound marketing strategies that people are using. A lot of them are very sterile when you compare them, and also they stop working when you stop paying the money. Whereas in many cases, you're creating an evergreen asset with podcast guesting. Is 100%. That your view?
100%. In most cases, our shows that we get people on are evergreen content. And I've had people reach out to me over a year since I've done a recording, and they've gone back to the back catalogue of the podcaster, and found my content and then reached out to me. So yeah, it's absolutely evergreen, or should be evergreen content in most cases, unless you're on a news show that you're talking about something specific.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's an amazing way. What we're seeing is the idea of repurposing content. So a lot of shows are now recorded on Zoom or Google Meet or Riverside, and being able to get the video content that then can be repurposed for social media, for your website, is really, really a driving force in this podcast business that we're building. So it's something that we ask our clients to request from the podcaster, that you can then create content that can go on and on and on if it's evergreen content. So yeah, we're finding repurposing content is a massive strategy. We've actually partnered with someone. We're just finalizing those details soon, but hopefully I'll be able to announce that soon, that we'll be working with a content manager, a social media content manager, to be able to do that for our clients as well.
Fantastic.
At the moment, we're giving advice about it, but we're hopefully going to be getting that deal over the line by the start of June, and then I'll be able to be talking more about that, about how we're helping our clients repurpose content for their podcast appearances.
I tell you what, I can tell that, when you start talking about this, you light up, and the brain's ticking over about the different ideas. Do you find it hard to sleep at night when you have all these great ideas?
When I've got a trick, and it's not anything ingenious, but it's something that works for me. I'm very much an ideas person. I've had to really rein it in, because I sort of sometimes got a little bit, we call it shiny penny syndrome,
Yeah.
shiny objects. You think, oh, we could do that. Keeping focus, keeping disciplined on a couple of things is now worked really well for me in the last couple of years, and that's definitely where my focus is. But the tip that I wanted to give you is, if you're struggling with numerous things going on in your brain and you just can't switch off to go to sleep, I get my phone, I go to my notes app, and I just write down everything that's in my brain, whether it's thinking about a conversation tomorrow, a presentation, how I'm helping a client. Is there a way that we can do something different with marketing? Is there things going on, sometimes professionally and personally? And so I call it brain dumping. I just dump it all into a folder, and I just get it all out of my brain, and then I can then attack it and work out what order and prioritize those things that I need to do. And so that for me has been an amazing way of being able to just relieve that stress that sometimes gets overwhelming. And that's one of the points I sometimes struggle with, is actually getting to sleep. So I found that as a technique has been incredibly helpful for me. And then I can just go, right, everything's written down. I can attack it first thing tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I love this sort of discussion, because it tells me that you have very regimented processes behind the business, behind the way you run the business, your personal self. And this brings me to my next question about designated account managers for your clients. Tell us a little bit about the importance of those roles for your clients.
Yeah, so the account manager role is super important, because they're the people that have the direct access with our clients. So what I still do is, every onboarding call, every client that we win, I meet on an onboarding kickoff call. It's a 60-minute call. I've packed it full of value, things like calls to action, storytelling, key messages, equipment, relationships, repurposing content, rapport with the host. So it's very much 60 minutes worth of huge value that they can then ask questions as we go along. So for me, that is still important for me to have an overview of every client that comes across our door. It's always recorded. It's always shared with my team. We get it summarized as well. So it is very much systemized. We try and systemize and create processes so that when we keep on growing, we've got everything documented
In place. Yeah.
But specifically, the account manager's role is depending on you, whether you do 12 shows in 6 months, 20 shows in 12 months, or 48 shows in 12 months, there are a number of touch points that they have. So every 6 episodes recorded, we then send to our clients a 30-minute diary to meet their account manager to talk about how things are going. And things like storytelling and key messaging is very much at the core at the start of those catch-up calls. So we have a number of these catch-up calls documented so that we know whether we want to talk more about storytelling or rapport, or if they've got maybe a few difficult conversations and things didn't go how they would expect or want to go. So we've got all of those documented. So the account manager, when they're building up their relationship with their client, they can think about what they think would be best suited for that catch-up call. So the account manager's role is to make sure that they are well versed on what they're doing, and then trying to build value for our clients throughout our contracts to make sure that they're getting better. The first 60 minutes is, if with me, is like, this is what you need to be primed to start. But then you do then need to think about how you can refine certain messages. Think about, we've got an exercise for storytelling and how people can think about storytelling. So it's a crucial role to make sure that we're giving high value to our clients consistently across the contracts.
You know, they say it's simple but not easy. Podcasting is simple but not easy. And this is why services like your own are so valuable, so important for businesses that are looking, and authors who are trying to get exposure to their target audience. And it makes me think about the other things that you would be providing, like the bio and how do you pitch, and do you have pitch kits and that sort of thing. Tell us a little bit about those components.
So my team see the video that on the kickoff call. We also ask our clients if they've got any sort of bio materials. So if it's a speaking gig or a book, if they can share that with us. We can glean it from the internet, but it is always that initially from the client, so we can sort of fashion how they want to communicate the ideas for the bio, which is essentially the pitch document. So my team create that. We then review it, we run it through ChatGPT, and as I said, focusing on professional, personable, conversational, to help us there. And then we then start the outreach to the shows. As I said, we've got this directory, so we agree the niche that they want to be in, and then it's a process of outreaching to shows, to basically pitch our services, or pitch our clients, to those podcasts. So it's as I said, like it's evolved over the years. It always is being reviewed once a year just to make sure that the messaging is still on point, and we're learning as we go along how we can sort of refine that and make that better all the time. But yeah, beyond bio, outreach, kickoff call, value, catch-up calls, it's not a particularly complicated business, but as you say, every client brings their own ideas, their own issues, their own like limiting beliefs, their own strengths that they want to talk about. So it is a very much a personalized for each of our clients, because we now know them, we understand what their goals are for being a guest as well, which is very, very important, understanding what their goals are. And so we try and make it as personalized to each client and understand what their requirements are, what their needs are. But yeah, it's very much, we document everything. We try and create processes and systems in place that when people come in and out of the business, they are ready to be able to add that huge value, which we're very proud of for our business.
It's evolving, isn't it? Now, tell me, given the nature of the game that you're in, how long does it take to match a host with a guest, and how do you match? What is the process for matching? Is this based on category, industry? How does it work?
So we've got a directory which is done by keyword search. We're actually working with a AI powered directory as well that I'm working someone I know from a networking group. We are sort of working with them, but essentially it's, at the moment it's done on a keyword search. So
Right.
we agree the niche that they're interested in: business, entrepreneurship, leadership, marketing, sales, SaaS, or particular cyber security, whatever it is. And then we then go to the directory, and the important thing is every show has a ranking score. So just to keep it very sort of simple, so Joe Rogan, the biggest show, 8 million downloads a month. He is a 99. And then you've got a Tim Ferriss or a Diary of a CEO, which is like early 90s. So everyone gets a score, which is mainly based on downloads. So part of the kickoff call and me talking to the client and then thinking with the account manager and my team, we work out where on those ranking scores that we think our clients should start on. So we do it within bands, so 70 to 80, 60 to 70. And let's just say it's digital marketing. And I go, let's go 60 to 70 with our clients. So then my team will then outreach to shows, a designated agreed amount of outreach that we do each week. And we outreach to those shows with a pitch document with a compelling story of why they would be a great guest on your show. So yeah, and if we're getting declines in that band, and we're sort of understanding this is maybe a little bit too high for our client, we'll then bring them down a range score again.
Yep.
So it's very, very targeted. You won't be on a show that has 1 million downloads one week and then under 200 the next week.
Yep.
They're very much going to be on the same level so that we can give the best experience for our clients.
See, you can't avoid it. I suspect that, this is all about training your clients as well. I mean, let's talk about that in a moment, but also you must be forging long-term relationships with your clients, because this podcasting game is a long game. Tell me how important relationships are in your business.
Yeah, no, they're critical. And we've had people that have done 12-month contracts, had a break for 6 months and then signed up again. So it's very, very important for us to maintain relationships. Also, because I'm networking as well, there can be referrals that I can pass to our clients, or even on my show, guests on my show. So it's very much like relationships are the cornerstone of businesses. Data is directing you on where you need to go, but behind every data point there's a person. So for us, relationships are critical, are super important for us to be able to maintain good relationships, for renewals, which is important, but equally we've had clients of ours that said, look, I've really enjoyed the experience, and they've then recommended one of their friends or someone in their network for us as well. So behind every business there are individuals and people. So that's absolutely a cornerstone of our business approach.
There is so much that we could talk about. We've covered so much. Now tell us a little bit about your podcast and your YouTube channel dedicated to Business Growth Talks.
Yeah, so I've been doing my show for 7.5 years, well over 500, nearly 550 episodes. And it's a business growth show. So as it says on the tin, we're talking to business owners, entrepreneurs about how they've grown a business or how they are growing a business. So it's on all podcast apps. We've built the YouTube channel really, really well over the last sort of 18 months. It's grown fantastically. We're very, very proud of how successful that's been. And yeah, it's hints, tips, strategies on how they grow their business or how they've grown their business. And it is for any sort of business owner. And one of the reasons why it's been going so long and I'm still passionate about it is that I get a mini mastermind every guest that I have on my show. I learn things and I can be a little bit selfish and ask questions that I really want to know about their industry and learn things, even if it's not close to my industry. You can always learn things from other people's journeys and strategies that they use, and they can be implemented in your business. So I'm just completely fascinated by getting this insights that I get from people, and the audience is growing. I'm very proud that we've done well over 500 episodes, and it's just something that will just continue. I just absolutely love it.
First and foremost, congratulations on your ongoing success, all of the things that you're doing for podcast introduction and your channels and your podcast. Now, tell me, how does it make you feel, given the experiences you must have had to see clients that you work with see results from working with podcast introduction?
Oh, I'm just immensely proud that we provide a really great service that people really appreciate, and the coaching side of it, which has developed over the last just over 12 months, which was very, very important to me personally, because I didn't just want to place people. I wanted to help people get the most out of the experience. So look, I'm incredibly proud of what we've achieved so far, and hopefully we can continue the trajectory, build new clients, get clients renewing with us, and building some great relationships. And yeah, I'm just incredibly proud of what we've achieved so far, and what hopefully we'll continue to achieve.
So at this juncture of the call, Mark, tell me a little bit about, the different specific places or the terms that people can type in to find more about you. Where are they going to go to learn more about the business?
Right. So you can go to podcastintroduction.com, which is our website, learn about all the services that we provide, and just do a contact us. You get a contact us, it goes to my team, and we can set up a discovery call with them. Equally, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if anyone would like to be able to connect with me on LinkedIn and ask any questions, if they've got any questions, or if they want to set up a discovery call, they're probably the best two places for people to go to find out more information about our service and also to connect with us.
Fantastic, Mark. Thank you so very much. Now, if you're on today's call, you've enjoyed what you've heard, you want to learn more, you're very excited about podcast introduction, I'm going to be providing the links back to Mark and his team and all of the wonderful resources that he has available. And with that all being said, Mark, this has been a fantastic call. Thank you so very much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, Rick. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks a lot.